Tonight, Barbuda clings to existence. Scott Pruitt kills clean power. And
you're not really supposed to ship urine.
Wildfires tearing through Northern California have killed at least 15 people so far, in what is already one of the deadliest fire events in the state's history. Dozens of residents are reported missing. More than 1,500 homes and businesses have been destroyed, and 20,000 people have been evacuated from 8 counties across the northern part of the state.
Seeing the before and after aerial views is devastating. It's just heart-wrenching.
In a surprise announcement, Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga said he won't take part in the redo of the country's presidential election, after the Supreme Court nullified the original results. Odinga continued his calls for protests and said the Election Commission hasn't fixed problems from the August vote. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who won that election, said the new vote would still take place. Kenyatta is likely to remain in office if no one runs against him. A district court in Fukushima says the Japanese government and Tokyo Electric Power Company were negligent in failing to prevent the 2011 nuclear meltdowns. The ruling came in the biggest class action lawsuit related to the disaster, and the government has now been found liable for the second time. The court ordered the government and the operator of the plant to pay around $4.4 million in damages to almost 3,000 people. That's just 3% of what the plaintiffs had requested. 13 women say Harvey Weinstein sexually harassed or assaulted them between the 1990s and 2015, according to a 10-month investigation by The New Yorker. The allegations go much further than the litany of sexual harassment accusations and settlements first reported by The New York Times last week. 3 of the women in the latest story say Weinstein raped them. Among the actresses who came out today were Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie, who both told The New York Times that Weinstein made unwanted advances. In a statement, Weinstein's spokeswoman said that he unequivocally denies, quote, any allegations of non-consensual sex. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the league needs to move past the controversy over players protesting during the national anthem. In a memo sent to all 32 teams, he told them, quote, like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. Goodell didn't say players would be required to stand, but he seems to imply that would be the outcome of next week's owners' meeting.
The entire country has been decimated. We may have to evacuate people from Barbuda. But in the meantime, we will be sending over tarpaulin and different supplies to at least keep you in the interim. We will review the situation and we'll make a decision.
2 things happened the day after Prime Minister Gaston Brown addressed the people of Barbuda. Nearly every one of the almost 2,000 Barbudans were forced to evacuate. And much of the rest of the world learned that Barbuda exists. The less developed, less glamorous sibling of Antigua, Barbuda was completely leveled by Hurricane Irma. For the first time in 300 years, it was left uninhabited. A week later, in New York City, Prime Minister Brown asked the United Nations to help Barbuda prepare for a future in which hurricanes like Irma were more frequent.
All 14 Caribbean community countries together produce less than 0.1% of global emissions. That's right, less than 0.1%. We are the least of the polluters, but the largest of the casualties.
Then Prime Minister Brown held a town hall in the Bronx with expats to discuss the recovery. But they only wanted to talk about one thing: land policy.
That land is ours. I want to know where you get this from, saying that it's a myth.
I will answer your question. I will answer your question.
That land. It's our land.
We occupy the land.
We finish. We are not going to give it up.
I will answer your question to the end, because when I finish answering, you're running away.
Unlike Antigua, Barbuda has quirky rules about land ownership that date back to the end of slavery. The laws, which are unofficial and unwritten, stipulate that all Barbudan land is communally owned and to be shared by all living Barbudans, including those living in the Bronx and elsewhere in the world. Over the years, Antigua has become an international destination for tourism and foreign investment. Barbuda, meanwhile, has remained largely untouched because that's how most Barbudans wanted it. But Prime Minister Brown says it's impossible to rebuild without some form of privatization.
I'm saying right now, I'm not running no giant welfare island over there. Can't continue. That every year, we have to find $30 million to send over there to pay them, and they generate no income. That is not acceptable. Not even property taxes they pay. Nothing. We're saying to them, you cannot go forward in the 21st century with that type of archaic system. So I've said to the Barbudans, we're going to give you a title so that you can borrow to repair your homes. You cannot expect to place all of the burden on the government. You cannot expect us to go cap in hand to the international community to beg money to rebuild your homes. You must carry part of the burden.
Do you have a sense of how much money you will need to rebuild Barbuda, not just to make it as it was, but to rebuild it in the way that it will need to be in order to withstand future storms?
Well, the estimate has been in excess of $200 million. I can only go based on what the officials would have said.
How much have you managed to raise so far?
Just over 30. Clearly, $200 million is just beyond the means of our country. We just don't have the capacity to raise $200 million. Even if we were to borrow it, we would not be able to repay. So we even have limited borrowing capacity.
Without proper funding from the international community or wealthy foreign investors, the rebuilding effort has been going slowly. Instead of hiring an experienced cleanup crew, Barbuda has been relying on a few dozen local workers who travel 3 hours each day to get to and from the island.
We are separated in groups. So this group on this side, that's what we're basically doing right now. We're removing all the carbonage, waste material, put them aside. Then the vehicle will come, the truck and the backhoe, they come and they pick them up. Yes, good morning, sir.
Ray Charles has lived on Barbuda for almost 30 years. He's in charge of one of the cleanup teams.
What about the front yards?
Well, that's what I say. We are not going into anybody's property.
Okay, so not even into the front yards. That's why you see stuff in the front yards,
right, in the
not
yard,
in the,
but
not
right,
on the street.
But what is on the street, we'll be responsible for taking them up.
This is still just the cleanup phase, the first step in what's going to be a daunting recovery process. It's what rebuilding looks like when a country doesn't have enough money. Collis King, a civil engineer with the Ministry of Works and Housing, has been helping survey the damage.
From my initial assessment, it looks as if probably you would say about close to 65% of the structures would definitely have to be rebuilt.
Like gutted, completely redone?
Yeah, completely. And it could be even higher.
How long do you think it could take?
Well,
years?
Years to actually get back. Power lines are down. You're looking at water lines are being ruptured. You're looking at the agriculture sector being completely decimated. Yeah, it's like starting afresh.
Today, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt issued his official proposal to kill the Clean Power Plan, the Obama administration's flagship climate policy. The Clean Power Plan would have slashed greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution from power plants, but never even got started. It was held up in court for years, then got frozen after Pruitt took over the EPA. Pruitt's proposal could itself be tied up in litigation for months or even years to come, but the odds of the CPP ever being implemented are approaching zero. Here's what that means. By 2020, researchers estimate that without the climate policy, there will be 3,500 more premature deaths and 150,000 more asthma attacks in children each year, with air pollution-related illnesses adding up to $93 billion in annual health costs. By 2030, coal-fired power plants are projected to release over 400 million tons more carbon into the atmosphere every year, or as much as 65% of all cars in the US, than they would have under the Clean Power Plan. Announcing the cancellation of the plan in Kentucky, Pruitt said regulatory bodies should not pick winners and losers. But that's effectively what he's doing. States like New York and California, which have their own emissions standards, will hardly be affected. But residents in states with no plans to tackle coal plant emissions, like Kentucky, just lost their protection against those pollutants. Today, the president of Catalonia was expected to defy Madrid and send shockwaves through Europe by declaring the region's independence from Spain. He didn't quite do that.
El govern I jo mateix proposem que el Parlament suspengui els efectes de la declaració d'independència per tal que en les properes setmanes emprenguem un diàleg sense el qual no és possible arribar a una solució acordada.
An immediate declaration of independence would have plunged Spain into a full-blown constitutional crisis, and it remains on the brink of one. And for the hundreds of thousands of Catalans who are determined to leave Spain, today was a bitter disappointment, but far from the end.
The build-up to the Catalan leader's statement brought thousands of independence supporters onto the streets of Barcelona once again. But this would not be the day they broke away from Spain.
I feel disappointed. I expected that after the developments of these last 2 weeks and before that he would respect what the people have told him.
Spain has been thrust into its deepest crisis in a generation after Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy's government sent in riot police to prevent an illegal referendum on Catalonia's independence. 900 people were injured. But the calls for independence are not unchallenged. The most recent polling shows that Catalans are split on independence, about 41% in favour and 49% against. Unionists, who were previously known as the silent majority, took to the streets over the weekend as the threat of a split moved closer to reality.
Yo nunca había visto tanta bandera en España como hasta ahora, ¿eh?
Nunca, jamás. Hay que defender la ciudadanía compartida.
Pero es que me llena de emoción, tío. Muy bonito.
Tony Garcia is an accountant who wants Spain to stay together. He helped organise Sunday's anti-independence rally, attended by at least 350,000 people, according to the police.
Is it possible to take a centre middle ground position in this debate?
Not now. No, not now. Si tú estás aquí en Cataluña, la gente, la misma presión social te posiciona hacia una banda, por una banda nos recriminan que si en Cataluña no sé qué, por otra banda que si el gobierno de España es no sé cuántos. Con estas actitudes violentas, agresivas, despreocupadas y no siendo respetuoso, nunca se llegará a ningún acuerdo. Hay que sentarse y dialogar, hablar.
Catalonia is an economic powerhouse, making up 20% of Spain's economy, but the threat of a breakaway is making businesses nervous. Several companies have already announced plans to move their headquarters from Catalonia into other parts of Spain due to concerns about the economic fallout of a split. Guillermo Bell, an economist and pro-independence member of the Catalan government, is determined to see this wealthy region break free, whatever the cost.
Because there are so many unknowns, what if it goes wrong?
How we deal with uncertainty is what make we more or less fit for 21st century. So if I'm not flexible, if I don't take risk, I'm not gonna do that.
The profit outweighs the risk in this.
By far.
France, for one, says it won't recognise an independent Catalonia. Brussels has already warned that Catalonia would not be part of the EU, which, post-Brexit, is now faced with the internal fracturing of member countries. And today, Catalonia stopped just short of being the first.
Farmers in Western India have gone on hunger strike as part of a dramatic protest against government appropriation of farmland. Since October 2nd, the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, the farmers have been burying themselves up to their necks. Today, after going without food for 4 days, they ate. But they vowed to continue fasting after a fourth round of talks with the government went nowhere this week. The state government of Rajasthan wants to seize 540 acres of land for a housing project and has already bulldozed some of the fields. The government claims it's following the law and offering compensation. Protesters say the land grab will leave thousands of extended families without a livelihood.
सुबह बैठते हैं और दूसरे दिन उठते हैं 24 घंटे की ड्यूटी ही देते हैं तकलीफ हो रही है दर्द भी हो रहा है कमर में और पैरों में भी दर्द हो रहा है, पर क्या करें, मर जाएंगे और क्या करेंगे। ऐसे तो हम ज़मीन नहीं देंगे, 1 इंच भी देने के लिए हमारे पास ज़मीन ही नहीं है कि क्या देंगे हम। हमारी ज़मीन ही प्लाट देगी नहीं है, 100 गज ज़मीन भी नहीं है, उसमें मेरे 3 बेटे हैं, 2 बेटी है मेरे, फिर वो क्या होगी। आदमी भी हमारे बेचारे बेलदारी करते हैं, पेट भरते हैं, क्या करें, बिल्कुल गरीब आदमी है, फिर भी कुछ सुन ही नहीं करते हमारे।
हाँ, ये हमारा पूरा परिवार का, हमारे 8 वहाँ का परिवार का ये सारा यही है। हमारी जन्म ही यहाँ ही हुआ है, हमारे पिताजी का जन्म भी यहाँ का ही है। ये हमारे को दाब से साइन करवा लेके भाई आप खाली करो, हम आपको खा देंगे, खा नहीं देंगे, नहीं आपका ये मकान हम तोड़ेंगे। हमारा खुद का मकान है, इसको तोड़ने के लिए तैयार हो गए।
मैं जिसो गाल रही थी मकान चीज में ये कमाले जमी माले ची भाई यहाँ कमाए न रह जाएला, ये पोता पोती बेटा बेटी रह जाएला जो भाई बा कुमाई से मार। मैं तुम्हारा घर न छोड़ कर ही कौन जाऊँ, घर में मर जाऊँगी पर बारे कौन न सुनली।
कैसे बच्चे भूखे हैं, कैसे हमारे सास ससुर हैं, वो बेचारे कैसे खड्डे में बूढ़े ठहरे, उसकी उल्टी हो रही है बेचारे के, वो खड्डे में पड़े और कुछ सरकार हमारी सुनाई नहीं करती है, चीज़ नहीं है। उस सरकार के ऊपर हम थू करते हैं, थू करते हैं, ज़मीन नहीं देंगे हमको, मर के बाद में फिर ज़मीन ले लेंगे।
My name is Castles. I'm a visual artist. But I'd say the germ of all of my work usually stems from some kind of live performance. But for this piece, it's more of a durational performance. I've been doing this particular piece since February 23rd of this year. So we're coming up close to a 200-day mark. And that date is significant because it is the date that he who shall not be named rescinded an Obama-era order that allowed trans teenagers to piss in their bathroom of choice versus the gender that was assigned to them at birth. I have been filling about 4 liters a day, so close to a gallon. So today is the last day of the collection, which is a real relief because it sucks to piss in a bucket nonstop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and to carry your urine around on your back and like on ice is a bit socially awkward at times. So I'll be glad to have, topped off this durational performance. Yeah. As a trans person, but doesn't necessarily have all the signifiers to pass as male because I choose not to take hormones or have a double mastectomy. I present as a kind of confusion sometimes in the bathroom. Sometimes I'll use the men's room, sometimes I'll use the women's room, honestly, wherever the shortest line is. But there's definitely certainly moments where you feel uncomfortable or super self-conscious. And so I think this act of having to kind of hold your piss in many ways hyper-performs this feeling that I think many people that are either gender non-conforming or outwardly trans feel on a daily basis. All right, let's go. My wife very reasonably put a limit on the amount of fridges I could keep at the apartment. And so what we're doing today is going around LA and picking up all of the urine that I've stored in my friends' houses and then send them off to New York City to be turned into a sculpture. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah. This is like the very first bottle. These are dark, yeah. Not too bad, though. We're unloading your archive. Hi, Amelia.
Hey. So it's on the move.
It's on the move. Unair conditioned. There's like a possibility of having like a disgusting black cube, but that's kind of cool as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Or multicolored.
Yeah, multicolored. Layered like a cocktail.
Yeah.
It's just all like tricky. Got it. Okay.
I'll get you this too.
Give it Thank you for allowing me
I'll
to
store your pee anytime.
appreciate that. Perfect fit. Okay. Right on. You're not really supposed to ship urine, so we have kind of kept it on the DL. Okay. Uh-oh.
What kind of liquid is this?
It's just like clear liquid with some vitamins and a little bit of protein in it.
So it's safe to drink?
Yeah, you could drink it. You could.
They look so small in the big truck.
They really do.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling anxious.
That's overwhelming.
Yeah, I think once we assemble everything and it works, I will feel good. The urine has been unrefrigerated for 5 days, and so that's a big part of my anxiety today is to whether it's managed to maintain stable enough for it to function in the way that I've envisioned for this sculpture. The first order of business is assembling this, the internal component of the pedestal. Essentially what that is, it's a hacked refrigerator that will allow the urine to run through this filtration system from the glass cube and keep it a cold temperature to allow for its preservation.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so today we are going to empty the 200 gallons of urine into this custom tank. So wish us luck. All right, let's do it.
Here we go. Ready?
I want it to glow golden.
It's a nice color.
Thank God! On some level, this is a way of asking the question whose lives are deemed worthy and whose are disposable, whose do you flush? There is this completely sort of wild card aspect to the piece. Urine has never been preserved for this long, as far as I know, ever. And so, working with a biochemist, proteins could unravel, bacteria can grow. It's been really crazy, and a lot crazier than I had anticipated. And so to see this tank finally manifest is a tremendous relief.
This is not a choice.
I am concerned.
The audio that I used, this 4-channel surround sound of all the different testimonies from the ACLU versus the Virginia School Board.
My son, Gavin Elliott Grimm.
The testimony of Gavin Grimm. It is about fear of a body that people don't understand.
Everyone here that's spoken about me so hard and referred to me as a girl. This is the first mistake, seeing as I very simply am not a girl. I understand that it might be hard for some of you to look past biology and
I'll just put this out there. Like my dream, if there's any rich collectors out there, would be for them to purchase this cube and place it in front of Trump Towers or install it as a new fountain adjacent to the White House property, perhaps.
Judgment on transgender, what a person claims to be.
Is it a success? Depends how you evaluate success. I feel like I've done my personal best. If it resonates, if it communicates, and if it moves people, that's the real success.
I'm just a human. I'm just a boy. Please consider my rights when you make your decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Vice News Tonight for Tuesday, October 10th.